you look at what needs to happen to support mineral beneficiation, you need to make sure there is security of mineral supply. How do we see security of mineral supply? You have the European Union, you have the US publishing lists of critical minerals to make sure that those minerals are availed to their industries. So we wanted to do a similar thing. Availing the minerals alone is not enough. We need then to look at financing, ensuring that the manufacturers are able to buy those minerals. So in order to do that, we then need to talk to National Treasury, and it's something that we are engaged with, to make sure that there's funding set aside, and also the IDC, to make sure that there's funding set aside. And then we talk to the DTIC to make sure that there's local content requirements. So when you look at, say, a windmill, for example, that is used to generate electricity, green energy, the local content in there, what is it? You are looking at steel, you are looking at the magnets that are manufactured from rare earth minerals. So we need to ensure that those magnets are not imported into the country, but they are manufactured in the country. So as we transition towards a greener energy, we need to make sure there's manufacturing and use of our with the DTIC, the DSI, National Treasury, and other economic sector departments. Coordinated.
Thank you very much. If I can then move to Jones. So, as I've started out, we actually have a long history of beneficiation, I think almost going back as far as Mintech's 90 years. So could you perhaps share with us some of the recent initiatives or projects that Mintech has been working on in terms of beneficiation and trying to promote more of it?
Thank you, Hugo. I don't think he's audible.
Sorry, I think can we get the mics on for all of them, please?
Okay, all right. No, thank you, Hugo, and thank you also for plugging our 90th year anniversary conference on Monday and Tuesday. Now, we have, over the past 90 years, done quite a lot of projects in beneficiation. Now, I'm going to split them into two. On the upstream side, recently, for instance, we have seen a huge interest in battery materials. And we currently have projects where now we're starting to, make precursors in conjunction with industry. Now, Mintech as an RTO organization, that's a research and technology organization, we strive to work with industry and prioritize those projects that are pushing industry, that are enabling industry. So we have seen quite a number of those projects coming through, and we have helped quite a number of companies, local companies, in beneficiating manganese, for instance, lithium, towards the formation of precursors. So that goes to your statement that we have been beneficiating, on the upstream side. Now, when we come now to the downstream, which I think, in my observation, this conference has really been strong on that, I will sort of mention two programs, which in their planning has very strong intergovernmental collaborations between the DMRE, the DSI, and the DTIC. And one of them, which is a national program, is called the Hydrogen South Africa Program. Hydrogen South Africa Program. Now, this program started about 15 years ago with the sole intention to help South Africa get into the fuel cell space. Now, as you know, fuel cell, the guts, the brains of fuel cell, is platinum. So as Mintech and UCT, we started research in platinum-based catalysts and what you call the membrane electrode assemblies. That's where you sort of encase them in a polymer so that eventually they can be stacked to make fuel cells. And our government was very smart to make sure that they pair each of the strong entities, let's say a science council and university, according to their strength. CSIR and Northwest, for instance, were in infrastructure, hydrogen infrastructure. You have the hazard systems, which is more mainly on component aggregation. So this ecosystem allowed for a rapid development of South Africa into fuel cells. And we have been major part of it because you first have to start with catalysts before you eventually form stacks. Now, what is also very interesting, beyond just the interdepartmental collaborations, is that these programs have a very strong, what we call human capital development. There's an insistence that at least 30% of that funding must go to train the coming skills, the skills of the future. So that is why there are a lot of students that are being sponsored in these programs, linked to this program, to make sure that when we now get deep into hydrogen economy, we have the requisite skills to make sure that we will become competitive. And I must say, to the credit of our companies, platinum companies, they have been very supportive in making sure that they avail the material, the platinum mainly, because it's very expensive, to make sure that they advance research. So that also, I think, has allowed us to really accelerate towards, very soon be able to aggregate fuel cells. Now, the last one, if I may, it's called the Advanced Materials Initiative, which also is still sponsored in the main by the Department of Science and Innovation. And its sole aim is to make sure that all materials that we have can be beneficiated. We have some science councils that work on ferrous and light materials, some on PGMs, nuclear metals, and light metals. And all science councils, whether it's MINTEC, CSR, and NEXA, are part of that program. And the main impetus of that program is to industrialize. And there's a very strong industry component to make sure that we respond to the needs of industry, to make sure that we de-risk the research so they can be able now to create jobs by making components. So I think those are just but a few of them. There's quite many. But maybe before I close, Hugo, may I say that we are even currently working we have an MOU with the Ramathuba SEZ, where we're looking into the hydrogen economy space, fuel cells being one of them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, ladies and gentlemen, we've now heard from the regulator what they're trying to do. We've heard about collaboration from a research institute with the private sector or business. Let's now get even more practical, and I'm going to ask Jomo. As I mentioned, he is in the chrome mining sector. Chrome, of course, has deep roots in the Limpopo province. And importantly, Samancor has smelting activities. So they don't just mine the raw ore, there is beneficiation. But unfortunately, over many years, and we call it ferrochrome, of course, the beneficiated product. But over many years, South Africa was a big ferrochrome producer 10, 15 years ago, but we've lost that significantly over time for several reasons. So I think, Jomo, if you can perhaps just fill in the gaps for us there, what has happened over the last 10, 15 years in terms of the mix between chrome ore versus ferrochrome production, and perhaps if you can take us through some of the underlying constraints why we've seen this.
Good morning, and thank you, Hugo. I think perhaps before I get there, it is true that South Africa did a lot of beneficiation historically. Just some rough facts there. We have in South Africa about 74% of the chrome ore available known resources in the world are located in South Africa, which basically means that we are well endowed in that field, and we should, for all intents and purposes, be leading in the value chain of chrome and ferrochrome production. Unfortunately, due to a number of variables, be it a number of constraints were identified, there was electricity provision, electricity pricing, that has been to a large extent addressed. We've had issues relating to logistics, be it rail and so on, as well as other factors such as illegal mining activities, high input costs, and so on and so forth. Unfortunately, due to some of those variables, we've ended up in a situation where a number of the players in the chrome and ferrochrome industry were taken out of the market. And as we speak, you are looking at two main players at this point, which is Glencore and Samanco. The challenges remain. If you look at what's happening in the ferrochrome industry, China has developed quite a lot of capacity, and they are thirsty for chrome ore. And we are finding a situation where it has become quite attractive for unprocessed chrome to find its way outside of the country without it being beneficiated in South Africa. Our view is that the environment has to be created where the exportation of unprocessed chrome is discouraged, so that the industry is to a large extent compelled to resort to ferrochrome production in South Africa. As a result of those dynamics, as well as the difficult operating conditions, we are currently sitting with excess capacity on the production of ferrochrome, because there's a lot of capacity that is currently mothballed on care and maintenance. And the priority, therefore, should be to create a conducive environment for the existing capacity that is not currently being utilized. It must be made possible for us to start off those furnaces. So there has been a significant regression in the beneficiation value chain in the chrome and ferrochrome